Before we get on out of here, I want to ask you a little bit about the N1. You were there for a few of the shows, obviously.
That's right, yeah.
In Japan, you were on the preview, the pick'ems, and you, myself, and Dean, me and Dean are going to do a longer show on the free feed, just trying to analyze all this. So we're going to do a really speed session. We're going to speed through this for you here. You've been so generous with your time, and I really appreciate it.
No, of course.
But I would like to announce that you were the one who predicted the winner correctly. Go Shiozaki, getting the win and marches on towards his redemption arc, his first ever N1 victory win. And they got there in an interesting way with the playoff match with Soya, and he was able to defeat Keno in the finals. Overall, what did you think of this tournament? We talked about you going into it. We know you were there live for a number of shows, and then you got home and you've watched everything and watched the final. What are your feelings about them, where they're heading with Go and Noah in general going forward?
So, I personally loved this tournament. I thought that this was actually better than G1 this year. I traditionally love the G1, and usually I enjoy that tournament a lot, but this time around I just felt like this one hit more, that there were stronger matches, and while there were lesser, like not as many sort of matches that stood out, I felt like the ones that did were strong enough to stand on their own, that the overall level was much higher, and that a lot of these matches were just great. And sitting there live too, it was like almost too good. I was exhausted after the 2 nights that I was there. I definitely think that, for me personally, I mean, I called this Go victory off the back of the promo that he cut. And I sort of thought from that promo that was kind of a signal that they had big things planned for him. And the same happened with him competing against Keno and losing to him. I thought they're going to rematch that later. And I thought with them being at opposite ends of the blocks, I thought that was a giveaway. So with all of that, look, I'm excited to see what they do with him. I think it's a curious question as to whether or not he wins. And I think it's going to be an interesting match between him and Jake Lee. I think that's the match as far as Jake goes. I've enjoyed Jake's run a whole lot. I think he's demonstrated as to why he's at the level that he's at. And I think he has a lot of detractors, a lot of people that don't enjoy his work for whatever reason. I think he's been on the strongest run maybe of his career, barring a few of his All Japan runs. And I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of the company. I'm enjoying what they're doing now. Some of it's a little bit random in the undercard and in the cards that they put together. They do tend to have, say, just random women's matches. The MMA match, what they call the martial arts, the GHC martial arts rules bouts, seem very random in their consideration of that. But in all of that, I've enjoyed what the company's doing. I think that part of it too is, if I'm honest, working on a book about the company's history, it's hard kind of, I am as objective as I possibly am in that book. It's not hagiography by any point. It's definitely, by no stretch am I promoting them, but you can't help but identify with them that little bit when you see the struggle that they've had and everything. So sometimes that's what writing about these things can be like. You can kind of can't help but pull for them. I hope for good things for their future. I think that there's definitely some questions there as far as how they put together the entirety of their cards. I enjoy what the main event picture has to say though, and it'll be interesting. I don't know if Jake Lee's losing the title to Go, or if that's going to be another scalp for him. I think Go's probably going to take the belt back, but those are all my disconnected thoughts on Noah. Bit of a disconnected kind of promotion in its way, but this was a strong tournament. This was a good showing for them. I'm hoping they can maintain that momentum. I think they've only just announced a new card coming up in, I think it's later in this month.
Yeah.
As far as Psycho Clown challenging for the...
No, I was just about to ask you about that. Yeah.
I was a little disappointed with that. I'm not opposed to him challenging. What was that, sorry?
You wanted Alberto. like Metal Noah.
I'm glad that it wasn't Alberto. I put up a tweet that was a complete shitpost where I suggested that it was CM Punk. And a few people took that rather seriously, which I felt a little bit guilty for. But no, absolutely. I thought, after that N1 and after some of the people that beat him during the N1, I was hoping it would be one of them challenging for the first title shot. But yeah, that's not to be. Eventually, I think, as far as all of that goes, I hope just to see them getting around for some of their own talent to challenge again for that belt. I think Wagner's been a strong champ, and I hope to see him. What do you think, though? I mean,
it plays into the storyline with his dad.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
He was my second pick. I thought it might be somebody like Jacob Fatu or the guy from MLW, Juicy Finau, who's Lance Anoa'i's partner. If they wanted to keep him around, maybe bring in one of the Samoans. I felt like them doing their own version of a bloodline is really on brand for Noah's promotion, that they would do something like that. But Psycho was my second pick because of that, and also Blue Demon because he took his hair, and Psycho took the mask. So I was thinking along those lines as well. Metal Noah, who I enjoy very much. I like him very much. A good friend on Twitter. But he thought it might be Alberto, and I said, no, I don't think it'll be him. Going in there. So still, though, Psycho, a good worker. But he got a negative reaction on Twitter. Like, I think it's just a clown thing. Like, people don't like that. Same thing with Dave.
Scary. I mean,
And plus, I get what Metal was saying, too, about, like, Noah fan. Like, this doesn't fit Noah. Like, the Psycho Circus fits AAA, but not Noah. So I get that. But I think this will be a good match. This may surprise some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if they end up doing a brawling style of match. I think that would be really good. But, yeah, I'll just go really quick now. We're going to end the show on this. I'm going to go over each name of the tournament. You give me a very brief statement of what you thought of their tournament, if they stood out to you. Anything you want to say. Inamura.
Oh, Inamura absolutely had. The thing is, a lot of people are saying that they're not happy with him losing every match, but that plays to his story as a young rookie who's in Japan. Your first 5 to 6 years, by the way, are considered your rookie years. So he's Noah's very traditional like that. I'm not pleased with the fact that he's going to England for his excursion. I mean, I would have rather he go that route that we've seen a few of the other companies take, and him simply go to another company for his excursion. Go to All Japan or something. But no, I enjoyed his tournament. He had very strong showings. He didn't have any wins, but he performed so well on each of them that I thought it played well to his story. So strong stuff from him, I thought.
Wrestling was great. The excursion is so random.
Right?
I mean, this guy's been he was in the final of the Fire Festival last year.
Yeah.
It's just in the company, there's been no leeway for him. I guess we'll just have to see how this plays out. Maybe going away for a while is actually the best thing for him. We'll see how it turns out on the end. But the wrestling, the talent level was really good, I would say. What about Brooks? Your countryman. 4 points here.
I wish he had got a bit more than 4 points. I wish they'd pushed him a bit more. I think he's yet to really show completely what this man can do. He's really good. He's a great talent, and we haven't really yet seen all of that in a Noah ring. He had a few performances where he got a bit closer. I enjoyed him versus Jake. I was there for that, and if I'm not mistaken, he showed out in that match. And I enjoyed his first match against Keno. I didn't think as much about sort of some of his others. I think that he could have. It may not have been him. It could have also been the role that they had in mind for him. And I suspect a lot of this in wrestling comes down
that's
to
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, what role they bring you in for, and kind of what their story is. And I don't blame him for that, but I would have liked to see more from him. I hope that he comes back for a future tour.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. Miscast as the heelish foreigner, I think you'd have been better as more of a babyface style of player. What about Kiyomiya? 7 here.
Yeah, I think that was one of the really pleasing surprises from this was that Kiyomiya picked up the wins that he did. I completely missed on him in our Pick'ems episode. Yeah, he was great. I think it was good to see some semblance of a push for him. I hope it continues.
The Thatch Man, one of my personal favorites, coming in with 8. What do you think of him?
I love him. He was great up against some of the other talent that they brought in for this one. I love seeing him live. Unfortunately, I didn't feel like he got the push that I wanted to see from him. I wanted to see him a bit more push than they gave him, but no, he's great. I think he's a great talent. I hope that they have. It's good to see him with the tag titles. I hope they have more in mind for him.
Him versus Jake on the first night, I thought was both men's best match. Actually, I thought he did a great job. What about Yoshioka, another outsider here in A Block, representing DG? You probably, I don't know if you're familiar with him too much, but how do you think he handled himself in this tournament?
So I don't know Dragon Gate all that well. He was against Thatcher on the night I was there, and I really loved that match. As far as different styles went, I like him a lot. I think he's great. I think I'd like to see him back in Noah. I don't feel like this was his best opportunity for some reason to show off what he could do. I feel like he was kind of hit and miss, and I don't know if it's a familiarity thing, if it's a styles point, or if it was motivation. I feel like I don't want to write him off just yet, as far as how he fares in Noah. So I wouldn't mind seeing him back.
Well, a lot of his matches too. He had the one long match versus Keno, and then a lot of the other ones were less than 10 minutes. They were often putting him earlier on, whether it was against Jack, Inamura, Thatch, Brooke. All of those were under 10 minutes, and it's interesting to see where he would go. The fans got behind him, I noticed, in Noah. It felt like he was a guy that, and the crowd in general, I mean, Anzai, the other block, the fans were not shy about rooting for the outsiders here. They got behind both Anzai and Yoshioka. I also really liked how his matches, every match ended with a different finisher. I think he did a great job of introducing that in. Yeah,
and I think I was there for the match. I'm just going back over it a little bit here. I was there. Yeah, I was there for the match with him against Keno. Excellent stuff. But
yeah, that was his longest match. I think that was his best match to me. Was against Keno. He got Jack Morris 9 points, one off the pace of the lead here. I gave him a nice little push here. What did you think of Jack in the tournament?
I thought he fared well. I think he was close to where I'd hoped to see him. I think he went to that draw with Jake, and I kind of thought that, I don't know, at the time I'd wanted him to pick up a win, really show out. But look, a strong push, solid. Yeah, I kind of hope that they continue to have big things in mind for him. I'd like to see him pick up some gold along the way.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's got everything it takes. The fans like him again. Then you got his, what you just mentioned of the champ. He was alive on the final night, undefeated until the last night. Jake Lee, how do you think he handled himself as champ in the tournament?
See, this is kind of like what I was saying earlier with Jake. He's very strong as a performer. I think he really showed up during this tournament. They've often had in the past few years a situation where the champion, for whatever reason, did not appear in the N1. They've had years where when Marufuji was champion, for instance, he didn't participate. So I think it was great to see him in this, and I think he acquitted himself well and just showed different sorts of sides to himself in the matches. I was there at Kurikan Hall for night 4 of the tournament, and he was not booked for that particular show, but he did a photo session in the ring with some fans before it. So I noticed there, every fan that showed up, he gave a little something extra too. He didn't just sort of sign what they had to sign and take a photo, he made sure he said something to them or spoke to them briefly, and came across incredibly well and incredibly genuinely during that. So I think he's quite well picked as Noah's champion. I think they've got something there with him, and I think he demonstrates that he's earned that spot. And it was just great to see that side of him with the fans. He's always good with them.
That's such great insight. I'm really glad that you were able to share that story. That really gives an insight to his personality too. The guy behind the wrestling.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool. Keno, the winner of A Block. What do you think of his run?
Oh, excellent tournament. Keno's always awesome is the thing.
Your expectations are so high automatically for him.
Easy to take this man for granted. I just hope he doesn't burn himself out through it. You know, he absolutely deserved the spot that he had. I would have had him as my pick for winner if it were up to me per se, but that was my prediction. But if I was booking this, I might have booked him to win personally. But he's been the MVP, I believe, of Japanese wrestling this year.
You could easily argue that. He was tied in our half-year awards for Eastern Lariat, and I think he strengthened his case as much as anybody. In B Block, you had Yuma Anzai. What do you think about his tournament? As I said, I think to me I think Keno is up there. I would say the three guys that stood out to me in the tournament were Keno, Go, and Anzai. Like in the ring, I thought they were both electric in all of their matches and the most consistent performers. And even though he was at the bottom of his block, I thought he had a great run in the tournament.
No argument here. The only match of the entire tournament where I sat there and went, no, this other guy should have won, and I wish it was booked another way. To play that mark game was the final night. I wish he had won over Saxon Huxley, because I think that as good as that match was, I think it would have been a very strong story. You would have really put him over strongly to have him win that and to have those 6 points. But he did well. He acquitted himself well. It was a shame that one of those wins in his column came via forfeiture. He showed up strongly as well in that tag match they had him in. So I hope that when he goes back to All Japan, he's greeted with a push. I would love to see him be the one to bring the Gara TV title back to All Japan. That belt has not promoted in the company this year. So it would be good to see that back and around his waist. I think that would be an appropriate push for him. But he's definitely earned his push, and I think this tournament just showed how good he is.
Oh, huge feature for him. In another year, he's going to be a great top-level star, if not sooner, for All Japan. Inaba, you mentioned it earlier. He had the injury, forfeited a few matches. A shame to say, him and Nakajima was one of my favorite matches of the tournament. I thought he was awesome in that.
He just shows such great fire in his matches that the fact that he doesn't win a lot of them doesn't necessarily matter. I think I'd love to have seen him pick up a few more big upset wins. He's so great. I think he's completely misplaced in Noah. And
I agree with that.
I would love to see him either them push him properly or as an upper mid-card kind of guy, or have him simply leave to go somewhere where he'd be more appreciated, because the injury could not have come at a worse time for him.
Terrible timing with the injury. I think if he had won against Nakajima, that would have popped that match over the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huxley, one of the tag team champions, 6 points here. What about his tournament?
I'm not a fan of the guy. I think I sufficiently buried him on Pick'ems, but I would say that he had a couple of matches that were better than what I thought from him. I enjoyed the last match that he had, even though I didn't want him to go over. I think, he
that was his best match, in my opinion.
He and Anzai had a good match. Yeah. The other thing to say about him was Alicia pointed this out on the show that we recorded recently with Kickout 299, which was that he had a message on his Twitter where he pointed out how much the match against Go Shiozaki meant to him and how excited he was to get to wrestle Go. So I think that's good to see. Good to see him acknowledge that and kind of to show what that means to him. And if nothing else, this guy knows wrestling.
That's cool.
So I think I softened on him that little bit based on that. So I'll give the guy a chance to not bury him completely. I think his level for this tournament was about right as far as he goes. Outside that one match that I wish Anzai won.
The two that I was worried about in the tournament was him and Lance Anoa'i, and Anoa'i came in with 8 points here, a little bit more than Huxley. What do you think about his tournament?
Surprised me. A stronger performer than I gave credit for. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
I hope he gets another tournament with Noah, or another run with him, another tour. I mean, a chance to show more of what he could do. The night I was there, on the second night that I was there, which is the fourth night of the tournament, he was one of the people signing autographs, and he had a very long line. So the Japanese fans showed out for him.
Good.
So he's able to win people over. So hopefully he gets a chance to do that more. I love his splash. I enjoy his offense. He and Huxley had a surprisingly good match, I thought, like watching that live. So they used some gimmickry. They tore apart the ringside area that little bit. So yeah, I would give that guy props. He showed out more than I thought he would.
He's another guy. I thought the match on opening night was like way better than I thought. Like him versus Anzai. And not just Anzai, I thought he did a much better job. I completely agree. He was clearly underrated heading into this tournament. And I like to see a match back two. I stand by what I said on Flow Show. I think a great use for him would be pair him with a fiery tag partner. Somebody that could work and sell and build up to a hot tag, because I think he would be phenomenal as a hot tag guy. His offense is great. His selling isn't quite there, and obviously he's a bigger guy, so that might help. But I think him as a monstrous hot tag guy, that's bias. I think there's good stuff waiting for that. He's a good worker.
He's a random one, but when we see the guy who's currently injured, so I'm just throwing, as far as that goes, like when he's back, when Daiki Inaba is back, random team.
That's exactly who I said on Flow Show. That's exactly who I had in mind was Inaba.
He can do the selling. He can do a little bit of the comeback, but mostly leave it to as far as all of that goes. I think that would work well as a teaming.
Absolutely. But good job, Anoa'i. Cool to hear that he's cool with the fans too. Love seeing that from Lance. What about Ilda Dr. Wagner Jr., the national champ, came in with 8 points as well.
You mentioned 3 people that you thought were the top 3. This guy, I would expand that to the top 4 and include him because he was very strong.
Up there. Yeah.
And it was great to see him as active in the tournament as he was. He was alive on the last night of block action, and that was cool to see. The guy that I hoped to see him do his first post-tournament defense against was one Manabu Sawyer. I thought they had a great match. So, he was in maybe my favorite match of the tournament was him against Go.
Yeah, him against Go, that was a great match. Right up there with the final to me. And a great moment for him to win. He felt like a true star when that happened.
The crowd popped huge for it as well. The audio, the thing about live wrestling and the thing about Kurikan Hall especially is Kurikan Hall transfers pretty well on sound and stuff, but it's always louder in the venue than what you see on TV. And the place was loud when he won.
Yeah, he did a very good job, as he's done all year as the national champion. We'll see what he does against Psycho going in. Nakajima, the third man tied at A to B block. He was my pick to win. I didn't get it right, but still, what'd you think of his tournament?
Great tournament. I would have bought him winning. I think that hopefully they have some big plans for him this year after, in the remaining of the year and after the tournament. He obviously defeated Wagner. I'd love to see a match for the national title at some point. As much as I don't think, I think he's above the national title picture. I think it would be a good spot to slot him into if, assuming Wagner retains. I would love to see that. He's always good. Is Nakajima. I hope to see more big things from him and they push the guy. He deserves it. Maybe him against Kento number 2 early next year could still be in play.
I definitely want to see that. I love the idea of him getting the national title. If Go can get the heavyweight title, them being champions as Axis, I think will ease some of my concerns about them reuniting. I think that's a great hook for that team going forward. That's a great idea. I didn't even think of that.
Even temporarily, the other thing to that as well is, you know how they have the annual attempt to unify the titles where they'll have like a 1 hour draw and no one kind of picks up an extra belt?
Yeah.
Have Axis explode and do that match.
And well, they already fought in this tournament, so that would be a great...
Give them another like 1 hour draw between those two for that annual meaningless, pointless...
Yeah, that would be another follow-up to that. I hate that they had them fight. That's one of my biggest regrets. Like, if I could change something, I would have put them in different blocks. I didn't like that, actually.
I personally really did. I thought they hit each other really, really hard for...
The wrestling was good. Like, nothing against the wrestling. Just the idea of them reuniting after all this time and then immediately wrestling, I did not.
Yeah.
Overall. But yeah, them wrestling was obviously, the talent level is like two of the best in the company for sure. Foye tied for first. It had to go to the extra match, but he lost that at the end to go. What do you think about his tournament?
See, the only pause I would put on Nakajima winning the belt is I would love to see, if he does, I'd love to see him then put over Foye for it, because I want to see this man with the national title. I think his time has come well and truly for a push. He had a great tournament, and finally I feel like Noah realized what they have in him. I feel like his role has largely been to support others, and I'd like to see the spotlight more on him. I used to have the agenda of that guy should return to All Japan because I felt like he wasn't getting what he deserved in Noah. This year's made me think a bit differently about that with the wins he's got. So I'd love to see that continue. Great wrestler. Emotional in the end there in losing to Go, and I thought that was just a great match. That was one of my matches of the year, actually, with the story that they told with that one. So, yeah, I hope they continue with him. What do you think?
He might have been the guy that gained the most in the tournament from like a push perspective. Yeah. This was his he's arrived moment because he's been a guy that everyone said has had a great year and very improved with the tag team with Keno. The match with Wagner earlier in the year was a real coming out party that's like, hey, maybe he's got more to him than they've shown so far. And I think this tournament, I mean, he was strong throughout the tournament. He beat Nakajima, beat Wagner, drew with Go, and had to lose at the very end. I mean, that's a great tournament overall for him. And I think he gained the most. His performance was really strong. I totally agree with everything you said. And if he's the one to get the belt from Wagner, I'm totally down for that. Honestly, I think he'd be a great champion. But then there's the winner of the tournament, obviously Go Shiozaki. As I mentioned it, he's probably my MVP, or definitely in the top 3 at worst, always hovering in there. And he won, obviously, in a great match versus Keno. What did you think of the final? What did you think of his tournament?
Loved the final. I think I'm kind of going back and forth on whether the final was my favorite match or the one where he beat Foye.
Yeah.
Two very different matches, of course, but there was something to that final that was really brutal.
The one where he lost to Wagner, you mentioned earlier, was one of your favorites.
That was great, too. This is the thing. This is what I mean. It's almost like there's too many good matches in this tournament.
It's hard to pick against Go as MVP when you look at that catalog. He probably had the three best matches of the tournament.
Oh, for sure. Just someone who I feel like this is a point that Rachel made on the show was that they pointed out that with regards to Go, that this version of him is closest to the real guy himself, that he incorporates all of his interests into his new look. That the flower is from the kind of the emblem of his prefecture. He did have it in all of the matches, but and the jacket was inspired by a band that he likes, and the tights kind of reflect his love for superheroes. So we sort of saw there from Go the types of performance that he's capable of and the types of matches he can have. And I think that this guy's a great wrestler. I would be open to him winning the GHC title back. I'm not sure if that's what they're going to do, but absolutely he had a great tournament. I'm 50-50 on whether or not he beats Jake. if Jake doesn't lose it to him, he'll probably lose it at their show in the new year.
I think there's a really good chance Go wins. They've gone all the way with him finally getting his first tournament wins. He doesn't need the belt per se, but I think if he did get it, he'd be a totally legit champion. Would not hurt Jake to lose the title to him at all. And I very much anticipate the title match itself with Jake and Go. I think Go's going to win, but it just depends on where they have in mind for January 2nd for the show at Ariake. Like I that's the one thing I can't kind of wrap my head around. What is the main event of that show? What do they have cooking for that?
I mean, I really liked your idea as regards Kento against Nakajima.
Yeah.
I think a rematch from that would definitely be a strong draw. I think Kento should go over if that's the case. I don't think you hurt Nakajima in that case. I think that, like, also if you're going to have that, then yeah, you have a strong champion, whether it's, Jake or whether it's Go. So I'm not sure. Maybe Kaito gets a shot at the title then, or maybe you give Keno. Actually, I think Keno would be a strong option there if you continue to push the guys that were pushed during that tournament.
If Go wins, that makes total sense. Keno beat him earlier in the year, and Go beat him in the final, so it's kind of like a 1-1.
Yeah, and that's a strong match no matter kind of when you put it out. On someone, the commentary team pointed out, too, that those guys had 6 matches against each other before that, and that Go had only won 2 of them. So you've still got a strong kind of contender there in Keno, and they do like to run back those matches for their big shows. So I don't know, you could do that.
I really feel like after what happened this past year on January 1st, I think the title needs to be in the main event. Like this year, after all the controversy around Muto and Nakamura, I think that they ideally need to have the champion be in the main event. But there's no real obvious option right now, and I think that they've got 3 months to work on it. It's not like they have to set it up in stone now, but I do think they should get on that. Like whatever their plan is for this title, whether it's Go or Jake, whoever they have in mind, I think. What about Kento versus Jake? If Jake wins the title, the ghost of his past has come to Noah and followed him.
I think that if nothing else, for Gerard's personal amusement, to have Kento beat Jake for the title. I would love it, but I think it's going to be quite the step for Noah to try to land that one when Kento has a match. I think at least he'd have some form of match earlier in the day for All Japan's show then. So I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how having 2 shows on the same day like that will work. I just wish I was in Japan in January again.
How about this?
Way. Yeah.
Here's my secondary option if Go retains, which wins. I think he will win. Here's an idea that just popped in my head. Okay, since you kind of mentioned it earlier, it kind of leads to this. Go versus Wagner, both titles in the line. There has to be a winner. Main event.
My only thing there is I don't.
Wagner beat Go in the tournament.
Yeah, I don't particularly want to see unification of the titles is a thing.
They don't have to unify it, but just make it be like Yuma in All Japan, double champion, like tag and world.
You could do that, and then you could have him relinquish the national title and have a small tournament for the national title. That could be. Or
just defend it. Like this actually really fits his character actually too. Now I think about it, have him win the titles, and he's like, look, I'm defending these titles until the wheels fall off. Pretty much.
The problem is that there's every chance that the wheels fall off.
That is the real issue with that. Yeah, you're right.
If you do that and he gets injured, God forbid, but if he gets injured, then you have to vacate 2 titles. It just...
Maybe it's not a long-term thing, but I think there's... Let's say 2 months. You get 2 defenses of the national title out of this. And at that point, you see where you're at as champion. Is it time to give up the big title? Or do you want him as the champion and maybe use the national title to put him over, which would lead to an automatic rematch as well? Like, could give you another drawing match. I think they can make that work, but I mainly agree with you. These are just ideas I'm throwing out right now. I think
or do you have Wagner? Do you relieve Wagner of the national title between now and then and have him just outright challenge Go?
Well, he is the one who beat him in the tournament.
No, there's no secondary title, no extra bid on the line, just Wagner in the main event challenging Go. In which case, I'm not saying do it. I'm saying pencil in Wagner winning and just see how you feel going into that. Because I just feel like this guy has something to him. I think he could be a strong GHC heavyweight champion. You know, if you lose confidence in him or if you don't think he's your guy long term, absolutely you could yank the rug out from under him and have him drop the belt to someone down the line. But I think I would like to see them give someone else a chance here, and he'd be only their second ever foreign champion.
And the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion as well. That's one of our listeners, Nicholas Awad, messaged me with that. That was his idea months ago, that could be a great storyline. So shout out to him if that does happen. I think it would be really cool. Last thing, real quick. What is the future holding for Kaito Kiyomiya now that he's back in Noah?
Oh, I've actually enjoyed the match that he was in. I enjoyed seeing him teaming with – I'm losing the memory of – is it Oiwa?
Yeah, Oiwa was the one coming over from New Japan, yeah.
I enjoyed that match. I enjoyed seeing them work together, and it gives him something different to do for a little while. I've just continued teaming them up for a while. And
him being a mentor would be a nice little – like that would be a good place for him actually, I think.
It doesn't damage him. It continues to push him slowly. It puts him in a spot where you could put the tag titles on them or you could spin off from that and then just
it treats him with respect, which is something they don't do a lot in his run. Because that idea is, hey, Oi was saying, hey, I want to learn from you to become better. And I think that actually is a very nice little story for him. And I think better for where he's at right now in general. Like I really like that idea a lot.
I just I don't think and it reverses the problem I had with the whole thing, which is I'm sure they were sincere in their effort, and I'm sure that they sincerely thought that he would get something or other from working with Muto, but I genuinely believe that he's at a point where he's better off as a mentor rather than a mentee in your presentation of him, and I think you could showcase him a number of different ways and maybe build him up from there, have him sort of start cooking around next year's N1. This team, I think, has legs, and it puts Oiwa in a good position for when he does go back to New Japan and, that he's remained over and that he's had a chance to get over with a different audience.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Good points all around. I really like that idea. So with that said, thanks a lot for spending so much time with me, talking to me about All Japan, Noah, everything else going on in the world of Japanese wrestling. And as always, anytime you want to come on, the doors are always open for you. And I'll hit you back for something or another when the time is right. Just the floor is yours. Anything you got to say, anything you want to plug, anything you want to talk about, anything you have to say, feel free now.
Oh, well, obviously, thanks for having me on, first of all. Thanks to the audience for listening through this. We always appreciate you being there for our craziness, and always enjoy this, man. Outside of that, coming up, I'll have more to say about it, but there's going to be, I mentioned the last time I was here, a crowdfunding campaign for my next book, Beyond the Green Mat, A History of Pro Wrestling Noah, which basically covers the promotion from its inception to its return to the Budokan in 2021. And I've had confirmation that the artwork from that is going to be handled by Muhammad, or Mushkiller, as you might know him. He did the covers to my first two books, so he'll be handling the artwork for the crowdfunding campaign and the cover of the book. So keep an eye out for that, and please look forward to it. Other than that, if you haven't already checked out my other books, they're available on Amazon as far as the Muto years and as far as Ganbaru goes. Other than that, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm going to continue calling it Twitter, and I will not be referring to it as X. So that's just my name, at Jonathan Foye. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes. Apart from that, man, thanks for having me back on here. Always good to talk wrestling.
Absolutely, you did a great job. Always appreciate your insights, and hopefully we can talk again very soon. Because I always appreciate when you come on. I love talking to you in general. So with that said, thank you, the listeners. As he said, I totally agree with that. We really appreciate all of the support, the love, the listening. If you've got anything to say, I'm always free to message at Viva_0. Rest in peace, Ray. Her anniversary of her death happened last week. Always use my name in tribute to her. And hopefully everyone is proud of me and the work I've been doing. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content that's been put out. We're going to have a free episode of the Eastern Lariat coming in with me and Dean coming in there talking more at length about a lot of stuff within N1. And we're going to have a Wrestle Update talking about all kinds of stuff going on in America. CML Anniversario coming up. That's going to be good. I'll do a Lucha Talk on that. And Dramatic Dream Dragons interviewed Chris Brooks. Tons of fun there. 2 hours or almost, maybe even a little over. I haven't looked at the rating, but he was there for a while. And, very fun to talk to. Me, Sandra Yannick. Lots of cool stuff coming on, but more of the Eastern Lariat universe coming for sure. Now that we're heading into more getting out of the tournaments, more into the 5-star Grand Prix from Stardom. And there's going to be more content coming up to the All Japan Anniversary show. We're going to get back to more of a normal schedule. Things have been so out of whack with the tournaments, just overtaking everything. Things are going to get a lot more normal as time comes. TigerCast W coming back very soon too, so keep your eyes peeled, your ears open, and as always, I love you. And until next time, sayonara.